The world needs its heroes, but the universe needs its Messiah. Harmonics' power isn't enough to protect all that exists with new evil on the horizon. So in order to fulfill his duty, he searches deep within himself as he is all known, all things, and all powerful. If there's one being strong enough, it is surely within himself. From this knowledge, there emerges a new Messiah, a Messiah that originates from the previous one. That being is Alter Ego Messiah. Alter Ego Messiah is the brand new VR for Link Joker. Alter Ego Messiah is Harmonics Messiah, and Harmonics Messiah is Alter Ego Messiah. They are one and the same and thus possesses similar powers. Only Alter Ego Messiah is more adept to the current environment as he was created to deal with today's threats. Alter Ego Messiah has two powerful abilities. His first ability allows him once per turn for the cost of a Soul Blast to lock 2 cards onto the board from the drop zone. This allows Alter Ego to keep repopulating the board with fallen allies and keep card advantage at an all-time high, even against field disruption decks. This gives Messiah a powerful toolbox to work with as they have access to all the cards in the drop zone. So the longer the game goes on, the more option Alter Ego gets. Now, his second ability allows him to get direct value off of those locked cards, as the moment he attacks, he can unlock any card on the field and give those units 10k power. This allows Alter Ego Messiah to always achieve free attacks, as he can use its first ability to place cards onto the front row and then use its second ability to unlock them. The power gain also makes it that no matter what you call with it, it hits for high enough to beat over any base power. Alter Ego Messiah is a very solid Vanguard that gives you consistently access to free attackers as well as your units, but that is just the surface of Alter Ego's power, as its potential lies in the supporting units, as they can take Alter Ego's power and crank it up all the way to 11. The best way to support Messiah is to achieve multi-attacks, and the best cards to do that are Lady Fencer and Genesis Machine Deity Volkogode. The way how these multi-attack works is that these cards on attack can lock themselves and then can be unlocked once Alter Ego attacks, and cards that get unlocked return to the field in a standing position so they can attack once again. Volkogode is the stronger card among the two, as it's a massive 30k beater that can give any unit an extra 10k power for free, which means you can hit for really hard. The only issue is that you need other cards to call this card to the field, as it's a grade 4 and it retires itself. So the only way to get him to the field is to place him as a locked card. The other card that works similar to Volkogode is Lady Fencer of Matter Transmission. The only difference is that she doesn't give power away and it's only a 15k attacker, but she is much easier to play as you can call her early game without any issues. Now ideally you want to call both these cards with Alter Ego's ability, but by doing that you can't achieve the multi-attacks. So in order to get direct access to the cards you lock with Alter Ego, we can play the following order card, as we have Clear Frame, Whirling Wedge of Curse, Cleansing. This card allows us to directly unlock cards so we have access to them the turn we place them locked onto the board. This card is mostly known to combo with Volkogode, as you can lock him from the drop zone and immediately use him that turn to achieve powerful multi-attack swings. Besides Lady Fencer and Volkogode, there is one more card that facilitates multi-attacks, and that is Counter Kill Strike Gastor. This card allows us to put another card as locked on the field after attacking, so he can place a lock card on top of himself to get a new attacker ready to be unlocked with Alter Ego. This card can also be used to place down a Volkogode in the early game, and just as a way to draw through your deck if you're missing pieces. Another card that's similar in the role to cycle through the deck and cheating out lock cards in the early game is Manipulator of the Void. This card is great to get a early game Volkogode onto the field. Even if Volkogode is in the front row, most decks can deal with a 30k body unless they have field disruption. So being able to cheat out a 30k beater that gives 10k power away on turn 1 is crazy powerful. Manipulator is a powerful grade 1 that sees a lot of play, and she belongs to a trio of grade 1s that finds its way in almost every Link Joker Messiah deck. The second one of those trio is Bending Solid Hit Vamanen. This card is a simple draw engine that is really powerful in context of the cards that lock cards and unlock them. So far we've seen that Gastor and Manipulator can lock a card but also draw on top of that. So combined with this card you get an extra 3+ on top of that. That generates a lot of value. That with a locking from drop zone with Alter Ego, and you have a draw engine that you can rely on demand. The final card of the trio is Lady Battler of the White Dwarf. This is the generic grade 3 searcher, which is really powerful in this deck thanks to the fact that the order card is a grade 3 and it's an important piece to unlock the full potential of Alter Ego Messiah. Her power gain is a bit tricky to take advantage of because you don't always have a lock card the moment you want to boost with her. If you want to get more value out of the strong boosters and generate even more numbers, then you can rely on Black Star of Increased Battle Rover. This grade 1 can get some big power buffs. He with Alter Ego can already get a power buff of 10k. Then depending on how many Lady Fencers, Volkogodes or one of the other mid-battle lockers you use, you might look at a power increase ranging from 15k all the way upwards to 25k and potentially even higher. This can also be used in the early game as it can synergize off of a Manipulator and Gastor. Another way to get access to a strong booster is to enable Lady Battler of the White Dwarf on every attack. This can be done with Blast Monk of the Thundering Foot. This card not only gives us access to some field control and also Lady Battler as a solid 13k booster, but it can also be used as a soul charge engine to fuel for cards like Alter Ego Messiah. Soul isn't the biggest issue for Alter Ego as not many cards use a soul, and with Blast Monk you have enough to last through winter. That said, we can look at a card like Destiny Dealer as a way to use soul for more value. This card is an easy way to cheat cards onto the field. The only issue is that you lock blindly from the top of your deck, as you don't know if there's a Volkogode or a trigger on top. So be careful when employing this card onto the battlefield. We've seen many different cards that facilitate multi-attacks, however there is one more card that can change the momentum of the game completely if its skill activation is successful. And that card is Remarkable Burst Monk. This card is a simple +1, but has the chance of restanding your Vanguard. In Alter Ego's case, this can be game breaking, seen as Alter Ego's on attack unlock skill isn't once per turn. Meaning, if your front row has units like Volkogode and Lady Fencer, you can get 3 more attacks off of this Vanguard restand, as you can relock your front row and unlock them again. We discussed all the support cards that empower Alter Ego, but we need to talk about the last card that fulfills the role of backup, and that is of course Harmonics Messiah himself. Harmonics is a relatively slow card, but might be a good setup card or finisher. This can be a solid first right target if you have no drop zone or miss something like a Volkogode, as he can just search those missing pieces. In a last turn scenario, you can use him if you aren't going to unlock more than 2 cards, which means you generate more power on the board than Alter Ego. And the final upside of running Harmonics Messiah is you increase the grade 3 count, which increases the hit ratio of Lady Battler and Burst Monk. Now with all the cards covered, we need to talk about resources, and as you might have noticed, this deck in terms of resources is pretty manageable. Soul, which used to be a limited factor, is now the least of your worries. You have Alter Ego that uses it, and that's about it. You can run Destiny Dealer, but at the same time you can run Blast Monk to generate more. Counterblast on the other hand might be more of an issue, as we lost the Counter Charger, as that one doesn't work with Alter Ego. Luckily though, this deck can operate on minimal Counterblast. In a generic playstyle, only Gastor and Burst Monk uses Counterblast, which means as long as you keep track of it, you should be fine, as you have other cards that can fulfill this role in the deck. The trigger lineup is going to be very basic with the standard 8-4-4 lineup. As we've seen, this deck has a lot of draw potential and can hit really hard, but at the same time you need multiple pieces, so having those extra couple of draws is still nice to increase the overall consistency, and the crits help you to put extra pressure behind your high attack numbers, as seen as you easily swing with 23 to 40 freaking numbers even without force markers. Now on the topic of force markers, this deck can play with both, but the more ideal marker is force 2, especially especially if you can set up your Volkogode. They themselves already hit for 30k, so making them a natural double crit increases the pressure quite significantly, especially if you can restand them with Alter Ego. This also gives more value behind the extra 10k power you can give to another unit and the additional crits you play. You can easily pressure with 3 to 4 double crit attacks of the total 5 attacks you perform on an Alter Ego turn. But if you lack the Volkogode or any of the other cards that increase your power gain, then it might be better to go for Force 1, as at that point the pressure of double crits means nothing if they can block it with 5k shields. With everything covered, it's time to dive into the different builds we can make for Alter Ego Messiah, and we start off with arguably the most generic build that puts an emphasis on multi-attack and overall consistency. As you can see, we run the entire main core. We have Alter Ego Messiah as the only valid grade 3 right target. We have Volkogode and Lady Fencer as the multi-attackers, with the inclusion of the clear frame order to get access to these units as fast as possible. As extra utility options, we have Gastor for more draw and multi-attack potential, and Burst Monk for yet again more draw power and potentially restand capabilities. And our grade 1 lineup is a typical Lady Better, Manipulator and Vamana trio. The idea behind this deck is to set up your field with multi-attack so you can unleash 5 attacks on your Messiah turns, and ideally one of those units is Volkogode, as he gives you the best pushing power. You have multiple ways to achieve these 5 attacks. You can fill your front row with Lady Fencers and Volkogodes to attack and lock themselves, and then unlock them with Messiah and then attack once again with your rearguards, this time empowered by Messiah. But you can also use Gastor and lock another card on top of himself after he attacked. Same as with Manipulator, you can lock a unit onto a front row circle if the attack it boosted hit. In the early game, you can rely on Manipulator of the Void to potentially cheat out a Volkogode, but you can also use it as a generic draw engine, and you can combine it with Vamanen to really accelerate your draw potential. On the grade 2 turns, you can use Gastor to do the same plays as you could do with Manipulator, only now you don't need to hit for its effect to activate. Another thing in the early game is that you can always call down an extra attacker, as you don't really mind being damaged tonight or losing a rearguard, because your Messiah and multi-attackers don't use counterblast. And on top of that, Messiah uses Soul, so it can Soul Blast a target for its own effect, but as soon as you can revive 2 cards, you need another unit in the drop zone for it to use its effect to its max potential. So either you let your opponent to do the work for you, or you can guard in the early game to get more value later on. So for this deck, your plan is to get to those powerful multi-attack turns as often as possible, and you start setting up right from turn 1. Now this will be the main strategy for almost all Messiah decks, but let's take a look at a list that uses Soul more often than usual and has a control option to boot. So as we see, most of the core is identical, only now we replace Burst Monk for Blast Monk to gain a control option as well as a potential Soul Charge engine, and we replace Manipulator with Destiny Dealer. Both cards that are replaced are high roll cards that could yield major impact, but aren't that consistent. Instead, we now have cards that gives us consistent value. Blast Monk is ideal in an environment where you need to remove important pieces, and yes, Destiny Dealer has a high roll factor in what you lock, but it at the very least will always provide a plus to the field. And late game doesn't matter with the 10k from Alter Ego. And this also is the reason why Battle Rover made it to the list, as with the added locking potential means that Battle Rover will be a powerful attacker or booster no matter the situation. Besides these changes, the rest of the deck plays out the same as any other standard Alter Ego Messiah deck. Now for the final list in this video, let's take a look at a list that uses a wide range of options and even added a counter charge engine while also playing a backup grade 3. This list is somewhat of a mix of the previous 2 lists, but with some big changes. One, we don't see the order, meaning we can't use Volkogode on the same turn we lock him, or any other card we lock with Alter Ego for that matter. But in return, we see Harmonics Messiah in the grade 3 lineup. This is a big change, as it means we aren't solely relying on Alter Ego and reduces G assisting for grade 3s. But we don't run Harmonics solely as a backup right target, as he is also part of a 2-card counter-charge engine with Calderon Wing. This grade 1 allows us to change Soul into Counterblast, and as discussed before, Alter Ego uses more Counterblast than Soul in most decks. So being able to change Soul into Counterblast is pretty good, especially in this list that runs quite a few counterblasting cards. The best part about this card is that yes, it needs Harmonics Messiah, but it doesn't matter if it's on the Vanguard circle or Rearguard circle, meaning you can still use Alter Ego as your main Vanguard. And there are many combos with Calderon Wing. Combined with Blast Monk, you can potentially bind grade 2s and freeze for free. But with Alter Ego, you can easily unlock Calderon Wing and have a solid 17k booster behind anything. This also empowers your Bella Rover to make it even stronger. Although most Alter Ego list looks very similar, they operate very uniquely depending on the slight changes in deck building choices and tech options, which makes Alter Ego Messiah a very interesting deck to build. But there is one more topic I need to address, which is a special promo that just days ago got revealed, which is Hard Sword of Polarization Lagranjard. This card is quite phenomenal. It fulfills the same role of Manipulator of the Void as well as the Clear Frame Order. It allows you to lock a card in the early game, so potentially cheat out a Volkogode. But it also allows you to directly unlock the cards you place with Alter Ego, which was the task of the Clear Frame Order. It casting a Counterblast might conflict with some of your grade 2s, but you also gain some soul, which might or might not really matter in the current builds. Interesting enough, you could chain this card with Calderon Wing, as one uses soul and gets Counterblast, and the other uses Counterblast and gains soul. So you might ask, what's the point of this? Well, if you have cards like Bella Rover that gains value whenever a card gets locked, you could basically cheat one more activation without actually wasting any resource. That might not come up all that often at this stage, but might in the future with more support. Alter Ego Messiah is an amazing new form for Messiah and works perfectly with the engine provided by Link Joker. It, together with the amazing new support cards, open up even more combos and synergy plays, which we all come to know and love of Messiah, and undoubtedly will evolve into something new once we get its next support wave. Thank you for watching one of the deck spotlights for VBT08. If you're interested in more content, then I highly recommend you guys to check out our other deck spotlights for this set or sets that came before that. And if your video isn't out yet, then sit tight, because we're going to upload those videos very soon, including budget decks for this particular set. But in the meantime, I want to thank my Patreon supporters over at patreon.com/VanguardInsider for making this video and everything else on the channel possible. You guys are amazing. If you do want to support the channel or everything that's happening on the channel, you can simply do that by going over to patreon.com/VanguardInsider and become a Patreon today. But with that said, I'm Mr. Time Leap, and I see you guys in the next one.